Felii ubique. Welcome to Watch with Mother. This is our storybook. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Once, in 657, a king called Oswy, silly name, invented a monastery in Whitby, Canada. Or was it Whitby, Yorkshire? You choose. Now, this monastery was also a seat of learning. The headmistress was the abbess Hild, and Counting Dracula was the dead master. Loads of nuns, monks and the odd cowherd sat down to learn Latin, which was a dead language even in them days. They learnt grammar, rhetoric and how to be dialectical in Latin, after which they went off to Oxford or Cambridge and learnt how to be cleverer still in Latin. Can you speak Latin, children? Oh, bonus! Let's decline the verb to speak, or vocare. All together now. Waco, wacas, wacat, wacamus, wacatis, wacat.
Wacunt.
What?
Cunt. Wacunt. You're supposed to be from Rome, not Frome.
Froome.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Now, when King Oswy, stupid name, passed on and William the Once was playing the Conkers, only the rich and tasteful went to school, where they declined and conjugated all over the place, which was bonus for some and malus for others. Then a long short while later, these rich kids stayed at home and were taught by travelling or poor and pathetic tutors. Then loads of Dicks came and went, and 7 Henrys. The 8th Henry invented school for boys, where they had education beaten into them, whilst the little girls stayed at home and had their education beaten out of them. And this is how boys learnt how to debate and girls learnt how to gossip. Then, 200 odd and even years later, all this education took a turn for the worse when the 3 Georges ruled everybody. Books and printing, lead and inking were all over the place, and the dreaded underclasses learnt to read and write and get existential. Now, if you don't know what existential is, ask a parent, guardian or carer to draw you a picture of Sona Kierkegaard. Søren Kierkegaard. Then if the said PG or C has never heard of Signora Kierkegaard, then he or she must have gone to the wrong school. As we all know, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and before you could say, "Pass me my thesaurus," all sorts of blissfully ignorant dunderheads were asking questions and getting ideas above their station, and before long, even shit shovelers were reading Jane Austen, listening to Handel, and marvelling over Giovanni's Punanis and other assorted Italian sweetmeats. What was to be done? Well, fortunately, someone discovered lots of wars that needed cannon fodder. There was the Ashanti-Fanti War, a whole pile of Neapolitan wars, and a couple of decent rebellions that thankfully got rid of thousands of revolting thinkers. By the time the Queen Vic moved into the square in 1830, luckily only a few oiks were going to school. Everyone was so poor they couldn't afford to pay attention. So children had to work up the chimneys, down the mines, and if they were really lucky, shovelling shit for the rich and famous. Then, 50 whole lot years later, parents were made to send their children to school until they were 10 years old, after which they were allowed to clean chimneys, dig for coal, and shovel shit for the rich and famous. Then Rah-Rah Butler said in the 1940s, "For heaven's sake, let's make children stay at school till they're 16. Grammar schools for the clever clogs, technical schools for technicians, and secondary modern schools for chimney sweeps, coal miners and shit shovelers." So, sort of years later came the swinging 60 times, when comprehension schools were discovered, where the underbellies were used as guinea pigs. Strangely, the clever got cleverer, the daft got dafter, and the ones in the middle were just coming and going willy-nilly. Some said the exams got easier. Or was it harder? Oh, who cares? And just like back in the day, thems that had had a few bob got educated, and thems that hadn't did media studies and took Mickey Mouse degrees, which qualified them for the job seekers allowance. Shit shovelling required a Duke of Edinburgh's award, or even a reference from the Duke himself. But it was possible to work as an unpaid intern shoveling shit in a PR company if and only if you knew someone who knew someone who knew Mr. Cameroon. Now, should a good education consist of 2 years shoveling shite followed by 2 years eating shite and then 2 years talking shite? If not, why not? Now that is a very good question, and one that deserves an answer, which we will read about next time. But I reckon all those uneducated numpties who haven't got a qualification to rub together should either nick some bikes or steal the ones they have off already, pedal off to Oxbridge and hand over £31,000 for a second-class degree, or just be given a shovel and told to get on with it. Am I being progressively insightful or disagreeably belligerent? You choose. Volete filii ubique! Oh God, I'm stuttering all over the place. I don't know.
Herr Kierkegaard. Herr Kierkegaard.
Was he German?
It was male, for one thing, not a signora. Crying out loud.